Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You have some doubts in chemistry.
Yes, I was telling you the topics yesterday.
So what is the problem? Acids and bases.
Yeah, the Arrhenius acid and the Lewis thing and the Bronsted base.
Okay. So basically, uh, Arrhenius acids and bases, and Bronsted-Lowry uh, acids and bases. What is the Arrhenius definition that he mentioned?
He didn't say anything. He just said that as you know, and like many people don't know. And then I said that, and he's like, if I have to teach that, and then I can't do that in this class. So he didn't say anything.
Okay. So you can ignore the Arrhenius definition. It's the oldest form of acids and base definition. You need to know what is Bronsted-Lowry base, and then you need to know what is Lewis acid and base. So Bronsted-Lowry, did he explain?
Nothing. He didn't say anything.
Okay. So Bronsted-Lowry base is basically acid is something that gives an H plus in solution.
Yeah.
When you have a situation like this and you dissolve an acid, anything that gives an H plus in solution is an acid, and anything that gives a OH minus in solution is a base. This is a OH minus in solution, so this becomes a base, and this becomes an acid. So what is a Lewis acid? Anything that can release Lewis acid, Bronsted-Lowry acid. Bronsted-Lowry acid is anything that can give H plus to acid, and Bronsted-Lowry base is anything that can give OH minus when you dissolve in aqueous solution. Okay, so this is the basic acids and bases idea, but the problem is that this works fine for say HCl and NaOH and situations like this. When you dissolve HCl, it gives H plus and Cl minus, and NaOH, when you dissolve it, gives Na plus and OH minus. So according to the Bronsted-Lowry definition, you have NaOH is a base and HCl is an acid, right? But this definition does not work for a compound like say sulfur dioxide. Now sulfur dioxide is acidic, and similarly Na2O Na2O is basic, but they don't have an H plus and OH minus to give out, no? You understand?
Yes.
No matter what you do, you cannot get an H
Yes.
plus, right? From SO2, right?
Yes.
Similarly,
Yes.
Na2O does
Yes.
not have an OH minus to release, right? So,
Yeah.
so Lewis, G.N. Lewis, I think, in 1923, this was the final definition of acids and bases. So this is much more general. This is a much more general definition. General definition as in it covers many more compounds. Okay. So this is a very specific definition. No, it only works with compounds that have H plus and OH minus, right?
Yes.
Only those can be classified as acid and bases by this. But what we have is Lewis acid and base can be many more other compounds. So Lewis acid is something that is an electron pair acceptor. An electron pair acceptor is a Lewis acid, and an electron pair donor, Lewis base, is an electron pair donor. Okay. So what do we mean by that? So when a bond is formed, sometimes you accept electrons, and sometimes you donate electrons. So for example, uh, uh, SO2, right? SO2. What it does is, let's draw the structure of SO2. SOO, right? So this is 6,
Yeah.
this is 6, this is 6, 18, right? 18, and then 4 of them are taken here, 14,
Yes.
and then you draw, this is called a Lewis structure, by the way, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
this, so right now you can also make it like SO2 can be made with a double bond like this and a double bond like this. Correct. So what you have
Yeah.
is there are these one second. Okay, we will not need to
Yeah.
make a double bond, we can make a single bond. No, so wait one second. I'll just rub this off. SO2, if you try to make electron pair donor, so SOO, and you have 666 valence electrons, so 18, 4, 2, 14, and like this. 12 are gone and one of them is here, right? Correct.
Yes.
So right now, if you see, oxygen's octet is complete and this octet is complete, but this octet is not complete, no?
Yes.
So when it reacts with something else, it will accept the electron pair from that and form a bond here.
Yeah.
So take in an electron pair, it will accept an electron pair, so this is acidic. So for example, we can say that all Bronsted-Lowry acids are Lewis acids. How can we say that? Because Bronsted-Lowry acids, what do they give out? They give out H plus, right? Correct.
Yeah.
They give out H plus.
Yes.
So on reaction, they are H plus can accept electrons, no? H plus wants electrons, no? It is deficient in electrons, right?
Yeah. Yes.
H plus will behave as an electron pair acceptor, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, Lewis space will be something that will be an electron pair donor. O in OH minus, O has so many electrons, no? 8 of them.
Yes.
So it can
Yeah.
form a coordinate covalent bond where it donates both of the electrons to something, to a proton, and it forms a bond, right? So here,
Yes.
if OH minus is giving up its 2 electrons to someone to form a bond, it is behaving like an electron pair donor. So that is a Lewis base. This is a Lewis base and this is a Lewis acid. Okay. Because this doesn't proton, this is just a proton, no? H.
Yeah.
So H is just a proton, H plus has no electrons, and OH minus has many electrons, right?
Yeah.
This donates this electron pair to it, and finally this accepts electron pair, proton. Finally you get H2O, right?
Yes.
So basically both the electrons of this covalent bond are coming from the oxygen atom, right? So the OH minus is donating electrons and H plus is accepting electrons. So this is a Lewis acid, electron pair acceptor, and this is a Lewis base, electron pair donor.
Okay.
Right?
Understood.
So so this definition is much more general definition than the H plus and OH minus should be released, right? Now you can say that any atom and any compound that is deficient in electrons. So for example, look at BF3, right? Boron trifluoride. Okay. So fluorine has 777. So total number of electrons in fluorine are how many? 21.
Yeah.
And boron has 3. So it becomes 24 total. 6 of them are used in these bonds. So 18 are left. 18 are left will go to these fluorine atoms. Right. So now you come to a situation where the central boron atom has only 6 electrons, right? Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else's octet is complete, but central boron atom has only 6 electrons, right? So this boron is really electron deficient. It wants electrons. It wants 2 electrons to somehow make a full octet. right?
Yes.
Correct. So
Yeah.
so it will be very acidic. It will be very acidic because it desperately wants that two electrons.
Two
So it will want to accept two electrons, electron pair acceptor.
Mm.
So anywhere that it finds an extra pair of electrons, it will try to react and get that, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will be behaving like a Lewis acid. This is a Lewis acid. Okay. There is no sign of hydrogen anywhere in this, right? It doesn't have to have a hydrogen in it to be a Lewis acid or a Lewis base, right?
Yeah.
So the Lowry-Bronsted definition had H plus and OH minus must be present, no, to release that, right? So that is a
Yes.
very limited definition. Lewis acids and Lewis bases are far more general. Now, in general, the reactions that happen are this type. So Lewis acid plus Lewis base will react to give some salt plus water generally. This is one type of reaction. This is called a neutralization reaction,
Yes. Yes.
right? So in
Nice.
here,
Yeah.
what happens here is that this Lewis base will donate a pair of electrons,
Mm. Yeah.
and this will accept that pair. This wants to accept.
Mm. Okay.
So then a bond will be formed between them, and maybe some other things are released and all. Water will come out and whatnot. Something else could also
Okay.
happen, right? But
Yes.
definitely they will react like this. Now, if you have a mixture of acids, Lewis acid 1 plus Lewis acid 2 plus Lewis base 1, right? Suppose you have this, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now if there is a mixture of this, then the way reactions generally happen is this these two Lewis acids are competing for one Lewis base, right?
Yeah.
These two Lewis acids are competing to fight for that one electron pair that both of them need, right?
Mm.
So whichever
Yes.
one needs it more desperately will win, right?
Yeah.
So whichever one is more electron deficient,
Mm.
that is going to be a stronger Lewis acid.
Yeah.
Anything that is
Yes.
more electron deficient will be a stronger Lewis acid because it will have a higher tendency to accept electrons, no?
Yes. Got it.
So what will happen is the Lewis acid 1, if it is the one which is more electron deficient and needs it more desperately, then, so for example, what can be a more electron deficient thing? Something that has a positive charge.
Mm.
Maybe
Yes.
this is BF3 and maybe this is H plus, right? Now clearly this proton is more
Mm.
desperate than anything else.
Yes.
This at least has 6 electrons, no? Like this has nothing.
Yeah.
And this is positively charged also, right? So if you
Yeah.
have a Lewis base which is going to donate electrons, this will be much faster than this, right?
Mm.
So this will be the
Yes.
stronger Lewis
Yes.
acid. Okay. So strength
Okay.
and strength of Lewis acids and bases is decided by how easy or difficult is it for them to accept or donate electrons. Okay. So
Okay.
what will be a stronger Lewis base? Something which can easily give away the electrons very easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
That will
Yeah.
be behaving like a base much more strongly. So for example, it is better to have a negative charge to have a stronger base, no? Rather than water. If you
Yes.
compare this and this, see here oxygen has 6 electrons and H and negative charge. And here oxygen has
Mm.
4 electrons and H
Yeah.
and no charge, no? So
Yes.
which two electrons are more likely? This is more likely to give away electrons than this, no?
Yes.
Because this is excess
Yeah.
negative charge, no? You would much rather lose electrons from here rather
Yeah.
than here, right? So this is going
Yeah.
to be a stronger
Understood.
Lewis base,
Yes.
right? You
Yeah. Okay.
understand?
Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
So Lewis acid, Lewis base, this is the meaning, and this is the more general definition. Now, one more thing you can think of is acid base reactions, or Lewis acid, Lewis base reactions are almost like oxidation reduction, no? Think
Electron. Yeah, one gains electron, one
This
loses.
is exactly the same thing as oxidation reduction reaction, no?
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Lewis base is someone that is giving away electrons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lewis base is giving away electrons. So then uh, it is losing electrons. So it is getting oxidized, right?
So that is.
It is getting reduced, right?
Yeah.
And so basically Lewis base is a reducing agent.
Yeah. Yes.
This is an oxidizing agent,
Mm.
right? So the redox
Yes.
stuff that you have learned, redox and all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same rules apply.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually the same thing. Just because you are going to call it a acid-base reaction when you're doing organic chemistry, and Lewis and a redox reaction when you're dealing with more or less ionic compounds. Generally,
Mm-hmm.
when you deal with these inorganic compounds and ionic compounds and all, then we call it oxidation reduction. But when we mostly do, when we have organic compounds and electrons are being shared and given to form a bond, right? Here,
Yeah.
these two electrons, that pair of electrons that are being given
Mm-hmm.
so that they can form a bond, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So because a
Yeah.
covalent bond is being formed, it is called acids bases.
Okay. Right.
In general, acids and bases are more appropriate terms to use when you are donating donating an electron pair to form a covalent bond. Okay, so that is called
Okay.
a
Right.
coordinate covalent bond. Coordinate covalent bond is when bond electrons are coming from one atom only. Generally,
Correct.
generally when you have two atoms, right, both of them will donate one to make HH2, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Generally, two hydrogens, each of the hydrogen contributes one electron, no? But
Yes.
in this acid-base reactions, what happens is both the electron pair is coming from one atom, no? One side it is coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the bond that is finally formed is completely one-sided in the sense that both the electrons originated from the Lewis base, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the Lewis acid is just accepting it, right?
Mm. Got
So
it.
that
Right.
is a coordinate covalent bond, and this is generally what we call actually it is a oxidation reduction reaction, but it's just that we call it acid base reaction, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we deal with ionic compounds and all, we call it oxidation reduction, right?
Okay.
So it's
Fine.
actually the same idea and similar ideas. What else is there? Tell me.
Okay. Yeah. The SPDF configuration.
So other than this, in acids and bases, they have started teaching this N factor stuff.
Yeah, the normality things, it's very confusing.
What are they
Very
teaching? Normality. Huh?
normality, and they just give molarity, the formula, and just one solved example. That's it.
So,
And like,
so
yeah,
what you should do is totally ignore normality. Okay, normality you should totally ignore. Don't study that. Don't study. What you should focus on is molarity and molality. That is easy to understand. You understand that
yeah,
molality.
he just gave two problems like of one each and the formula. That's it.
Okay.
Like,
So what you have
yeah,
to do to understand these things is read chapter 3 and chapter 4 of McMurray. Okay.
I
This is
was reading the redox thing, that
so
the
in
half
that
reaction.
just before that somewhere there will be molality also. Chapter 3 it will be there. So and even chapter 3 for sure it is there, molality might not be there, but uh, later in chapter 9 or chapter 10 there is a chapter called liquids and solutions, right? Liquids and solutions in the same book. So if you are in doubt about molality and all, you should go look at the sections, first few sections of that chapter, chapter 9. The first few sections of that chapter will explain nicely all of this: molality, mole fraction,
Yeah,
and so on. So you have to go back to the textbook and read it properly. Don't rely on the FITGI teachers. Okay.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I will tell you what it is. When you have something dissolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Something is dissolved. Salt is supposed dissolved in water, right? So
Yeah.
you want to be able to say that which container has a greater concentration of salt. No,
Mm-hmm.
suppose these are two containers, right? This is
Yes.
less concentration of salt, and this is more concentration of salt in the solution, right? Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
a solution is a homogeneous mixture, so it is hard to say by looking at it, right? Like you can't say,
Yes.
right? So,
Yeah.
so one way to figure out is people have figured out a standard method of measurement of concentration. That method of measurement, one way to measure is molarity, which is moles of solute by volume of solution.
Solution. Yeah.
So it's just how many moles of NaCl did you add. So moles of solute can be figured out by how many grams of NaCl you have added, right?
Yeah.
So if, for example, I add 58.5 grams of NaCl, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means it is 1 mole of NaCl
Yeah.
I have added, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
and suppose the total solution had a volume of 1 liter, then you will say 1 mole of solute by 1 liter of solution, that is mole per liter, that is called 1 molar solution, right?
Okay.
So keep in mind that it is volume of solution, not volume of solvent, right?
Solvent. Yeah.
So when you add a little bit of salt, the volume of the water also changes slightly, right? Not a lot, but a little bit. You
Yes. Yes.
understand? If you add a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of salt, the volume of the solution will rise a little, no?
Yes.
So
Yes.
volume of solution is not the same thing as volume of solvent, right?
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
important to remember. Molality is measured in a slightly different way. It is moles of solute by kgs of solvent, weight of
So,
solvent. This is what you need to
yes.
remember. So it is mole by kg. So, so suppose you had 100 grams of water here. So then molality would be 1 by 1/10, right?
Yeah.
1/10 kgs of solvent. So molality will be 10 and it is written with a small m. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I will summarize here. Molarity, moles of solute by volume of solution, and molality is moles of solute by mass of solvent.
Solvent. Yeah.
So important to know that this is solvent and this is solution. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So
Okay.
so the units are, units are mole per liter and these units are mole per kilograms. And you
Yeah.
should be able to convert stuff like 1,000 liters will be 1 meter cube. So this is 1,000 uh, 1,000 centimeter cube. So 1 liter
Yeah.
is 1,000 centimeter cube. So
Yes.
1 milliliter is 1 centimeter cube.
Yeah.
You should know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then you have this conversion and this is the units. And these are the only two units that more or less you will be using. This is written as small m, this is written as capital M. And forget about the normality part. Normality, n factor, equivalent weight, normality,
Recommend.
n factor, you should ignore. These are all 100-year-old concepts. Nobody ever uses them anymore. Okay. So this is like before moles and all were standard, right? Before
Yeah.
that, people used to use all this stuff. This is for I don't know for what joy they have that in the coaching book still. Like nobody ever uses it. None of the chemistry books. So for example, if you look at McMurray, it will never mention this. No chemistry book which is written in the last 30 years will ever mention this. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Any good chemistry book, like a foreign writer. In India, all of the textbooks have this. All of the Indian authors have copied it from some old books and all, and they have this. This is some old stuff. It is confusing and nobody cares. Okay. So you
Fine.
should also not bother and focus on mole concept and understanding mole concept properly. Okay.
I'm finding it difficult to solve the numerical problems. Like sir is giving like very, very complicated sums and I'm not able to do them myself.
No,
But once sir,
as long as it is a mole concept question, you have to do with them.
yeah, like not like mole concept, like yeah, mole
Ignore.
concept and like this thing, this Dulong's-Petit's law or something.
Okay, so tell me a question if you have it right now.
Yeah.
The Dulong-Petit law is just another very old and stupid thing, and it is just something into something is equal to 6.4. No, what is it? Tell me.
That at approximate atomic mass of matter into specific heat is 6.4.
Mass into specific heat.
Specific heat of the matter.
Specific heat capacity. Okay, specific heat of the substance is equal to 6.4. So again, this is like some 100, 200-year-old stuff. It is not even valid very well, but I mean, it is there in the books and all, and nobody cares. Nobody will ever ask you this. Okay, any decent exam will not ask you this. Like JEE will never ask you this. So don't worry about it. So it's some old stuff and all. So don't care. For now, for solving 1 or 2 questions, you can use it, but whatever. We'll ignore that. Tell me if there is a difficulty in solving questions of mole concept and any difficulties there.
Yeah, there's this question of mole concept only. It's like, what is the yield of NH3 when 50 gram each of N2 and H2 react with each other?
50 gram of N2 and H2.
And H2 react with each other.
React with each other. So, how will you do it? First, you need a balanced reaction.
Balanced equation.
N2 plus 3H2 gives
2NH3.
This is 50 grams. This is 50 grams, right? So, how many moles of nitrogen are there? 50 by 28.
28, yeah. 50 by 28.
Moles.
Yes.
How many moles of hydrogen are there? 50 by 2. Each hydrogen molecule is how many moles? 2 grams. No, 2 gram per mole.
Yeah, 2 gram, yeah.
Hydrogen will weigh how much? 2 grams per mole?
2 gram, yeah.
25 moles of hydrogen. No? And this is how many moles? This is just 25 by 14 moles, right?
Yes, yes.
Correct. So, which one seems to be scarce? Which one seems to be scarce? No, N2 seems to be in less amount, no?
Yeah, N2.
Okay, so if suppose all of the N2 reacted, how much hydrogen will you use up? 3 times this, no? See, suppose this value is something 1.78, suppose. I'm just guessing. Do the calculation and suppose this is 1.8 moles, right?
Yeah.
So if 1.8 moles of nitrogen react, how many moles of hydrogen has to be consumed to do that?
3 into that. So
5.4 moles will react.
Moles, yeah.
So how much will be left over here? 25 minus 5.4, right?
0.4, yeah.
And how much will be produced here? If 1.8 moles is used up here, how much will be produced?
Twice of
that. 2 times 1.8 will be produced.
Yeah.
So in our question, the number of moles of nitrogen being used up was 25 by 14. So 2 times that will be 50 by 14. 50 by 14 moles of an ammonia should be formed, right? Isn't this the maximum allowable ammonia, right?
Yeah.
There is no more nitrogen left, right?
Yes. All
of it is used up. No, all of this has to be used up. So 50 by 14 into 17 is your weight in grams.
Yeah.
Right? So this will become some 25 by 7. And 7 by 17 will be 2.34 and 2.42 into 25. So 242 by 4. So 60.5. grams. Okay, around 60 grams of ammonia will be formed.
Okay, I understood.
Understand why, right?
Yeah.
See, we could not have done it from this side. You cannot do it deciding based on moles of this, because there is not enough nitrogen to fully react 25 moles of hydrogen. How many moles of nitrogen are needed? 25 by 3.
Yeah.
8.33 moles are needed. No, how many moles are actually there? 1.8. No?
Yes.
So basically, which one will be over first? Nitrogen.
Nitrogen. Yeah.
Nitrogen will be over first. That will decide how much ammonia will be formed.
Yes.
So we already did how to do, right? You understood?
Yes. Yes. I understand.
Tell me one or two more questions so that it is finally clear. Any other
Yeah.
questions that are difficult?
1 minute. I'll just take it. Yeah, it's like the molecular weight of a compound containing C, H, and O is 180 gram per mole.
1 second, wait. The molecular
Yeah.
weight of a
The molecule
compound.
containing C, H, and O
Hmm.
is 180 gram per mole.
Hmm.
0.0833 mole of a compound
Hmm.
contains 5 gram carbon.
Hmm.
The molecular formula of the compound is SIMS.
See, this question you are seeing from where?
This Fiji homework they gave on they
So,
published.
why don't you go to McMurray Fay, dude? I don't understand. I've been telling you about this for several weeks now, right?
Yeah, I was reading the redox, but I'm almost done with that.
No, don't pick and choose. Don't pick and choose and read one section, whichever you feel you want to read. Go from chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5 in a sequence. You understand? Chapter 3 is mole concept, okay? Chapter 3 is mole concept, and in the book, there are examples of questions like this. If you had done it 2 weeks ago, this would not have been a problem yesterday. You understand? So, don't wait for Fiji to come up with her concept and then you will struggle and then you will find ways to fix it, right? You can actually go ahead and study the book. No, this is a empirical weight and molecular weight question. This is nicely explained with examples in McMurray and Fay chapter 3 when he's doing mole concept. Okay,
I'll read it.
I'm not just talking about you reading it for this specific problem. What you have to do to solve your chemistry issues is read in this book. Okay. So right now, make this keep this as a lesson learned. Like, don't forget.
Yes, fine.
Don't wait for Fiji to teach you and then have problems and then struggle and feel bad and then come and ask me. You understand?
Okay.
Fix it yourself. No, start in a sequence. Chapter 3 is mole concept. Chapter 4 is a little more of redox stuff. You already know so much. Chapter 5 is atomic structure. Have they taught atomic structure? No.
No, they haven't.
See, they are teaching something in acids and bases and they're using atomic structure and you don't know. And you are struggling in class. But if you had, when we started our classes, that day only I mentioned that you should do this book. If you had started doing this book that day, by now you would have finished chapter 5 and you would know clearly what SPDF is. There is no issue. You would have understood and you would have faced no issues in understanding. You understand? So right now also it is not too late. Just start reading the book in a sequence like a normal kid picking up a new subject. You start off with some easy book, no?
Yeah.
McMurray Fay is that easy book, and this is the sequence in which you are supposed to learn chemistry. It is very well explained, so you can do it. Okay. Anytime you are stuck somewhere, you can ask me, but don't wait for Fiji. If you leave it for Fiji and if you leave your subject to their help, no, they will do random things like this. They will teach something, they will assume you already know stuff, then they will not teach that properly. Then you will be a confused mess, it will be totally.
Okay, fine. I will do that tomorrow.
Okay, this question
That's
we'll discuss right now. 0.833 mole of a compound contains 5 gram of carbons. So okay, uh, okay. So 1 mole of the compound will contain how many grams of carbon?
12.
No, I mean I don't know. I have to do the calculation. No?
Like see, like in this question or this one?
In this question, I'm saying
Okay.
1 mole of a
Like
compound,
see,
right?
yeah,
5 by 0.0833. No, does it make sense? Unitary method.
yeah, yeah.
This
Right.
many mole, 5 grams. So 1 mole, how many grams?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. I
So
know.
5 by 833 and multiply by on top
And
4 zeros, right?
yeah,
So 833 by this. So if you do 1 point, there is 167, 1670. So almost 2, right? Can you see it is almost 2,
yeah.
right? So it is almost 12, no? 12 it is. 833 into 12 will be
Yeah.
10,000.
Okay.
If you do 12, it becomes 9600, and 33 12s will be
Yes.
360, 390, no? Something,
66. Yeah. Something. Yeah.
right? You're getting it, no? It will be 12.
Yeah.
So this will
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
60 grams, right? So
Yeah.
1 mole of the compound has how many grams of carbon? 60
60.
grams. Now 60 grams of carbon means how many moles?
60 gram will be like 12 into
Right?
yeah.
1 mole of the compound has 5 moles of carbon, no?
Yes.
Correct. And
Yes.
what does he actually want you to find?
Uh, the uh, the empirical formula of the compound.
Okay, but then he has not given any information. Okay, then one thing we know for sure, it is C5, right?
Wait, empirical and then it's cancelled and written molecular formula.
Okay, one thing for sure we know, it is C5. No.
Yeah, it's C5.
C5 HXOY. So it will be
Yeah,
5 plus X plus 16Y is equal to 180, no?
180. Yeah,
5 into 12 actually, 60 plus, right?
60 plus
Right? 5 into
X.
12, no?
Yeah,
So it should be X plus 16Y is equal to 120,
100.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we can do is we can check some values. So if Y is equal to 7, right? X is equal to 8 is fitting,
Is it? Yeah, it's fitting.
right? If Y is
Yeah,
equal to 6, X is equal to 24 will fit,
yeah, it
right?
does.
So the
Yes.
possible formulas that we are getting are, one is C5 H H
8,
8 and
awesome.
O7. One is C5 H X is 24, C5 H24 O6, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are many possible formulas. There's not enough
The
information to
first,
find it.
the first one matches with the given options. The
Okay,
C5H.
okay. So if there are options, then you can decide. No?
Yeah.
You have to have X plus 16Y is 120, right?
Yes.
You understood how
Okay.
it came.
Yeah. I understand.
We found how 5 comes because of this. 0.833 mole has 5 grams of C,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
One more question. Any other question? Any other major doubt that is bothering you?
Yeah. Yeah. An organic compound contains X% of carbon,
Hmm.
Y% of H, Z% of O.
Hmm.
If X equals to 6Y,
Hmm.
X minus Y equals to 3 into Z minus Y.
Like this.
Yeah, whole thing. Yeah. The
Hmm.
empirical formula of the compound
Hmm.
is what?
So you have X plus Y plus Z is equal to 100. And you have these relations. No?
Yeah.
x is equal to 6y. So this will become 5y is equal to 3z minus 3y, right? So 8y
Yeah.
is equal to 3z. So z is equal to 8y by 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
X is equal to 6y plus 8y by 3 is equal to 100, right?
Yeah.
And then you have what? 7y plus 21, 7y plus 21, 29y by 3 is equal to 100. So y is equal to 300 by 29.
300 by 59.
So 11, 29 to, no, 10 point, 10, so 100, 10.3 almost, right? Y is equal to 10.3, right?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
instead of giving the answer x, y, z directly, they are just annoying you by putting some equations, right? And they're just randomly bothering you. They have given 2 equations and 3 unknowns. The third equation is hidden, no? Third equation is hidden here, right? X plus y plus z must be 100, right?
Yeah, because it's like percent.
So they are just like trivially making the question seem more complicated, right? X plus y plus z, if you know if there's 100, then you can find 3 equations, 3 unknowns I just found, right?
Then we can find.
So y is given, then z is equal to 8 by 3 into 300 by 29. So it becomes 800 by 29, right?
Yeah.
800 by 29 will be something bigger, 8 by 3 into this, right? So if you do it, 258 and 22, 220 and 5s are 145, 6 are 174, 7s are 174 and 2.27 point something. 28 will fit. 9 8s are 72, 160 plus 72. No, 28 doesn't fit. So,
Yeah.
so it is 27 point something only. And whatever, I don't even care. 27.9 or something maybe. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and x will be x is what? X is equal to 6y. 6 times y. So that will be 60, 61.8, right?
8. Yeah. Yeah.
So x y is 10.3, z is 20, whatever is remaining. So this is 71.72.1. So it is 27.9, correct, right?
Yeah.
So now the way to do it is x percentage. So this is carbon. Carbon is how much? 61.8. Or
60.
hydrogen is how much? 10.3. And
10.
oxygen is how much? 27.9. So
Yeah.
suppose you took 100 grams of the compound, you will get 61.8 grams of carbon, 10.3 grams of this, and 27.9 grams of oxygen, right? So in 100 grams of the compound, how many moles of carbon are there? 61.8 by 12. Moles of this are 10.3 by 1, and this is 27.9 by 16, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is almost 5 point something.
5.
This
Yeah.
is 10.3, and this is
1.
1.8 or 9, right? 1.9 or something, right?
Yeah. 8. Order. Yeah.
1 point actually 8 and all. So wait, let's just do it a little bit more accurately. So 27.9, 279, 280 by 16, let's do. So 140 by 8, so that is 70 by 4, and that is 35 by 2, so 17.5, right? So 1.75, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So this is 5 moles of this, 10.3 moles of this, and this many moles of this. Now moles cannot be a fraction, right? So this is a ratio. So I'll multiply by such thing that it becomes 3 times. I'll multiply. Okay. If I multiply by 3 times or 4 times, right? 4 times. I think 4 times make this a integer, right? 3 times does not make it an integer, right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you do 4 times, it becomes 7, no?
7. 7. Yeah.
And 4 times if you do, it becomes 40.
12.
1.2, right? And 4 times it becomes 20, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So what I'm getting is the ratio should be around C20 H41O7, right? Approximately this will be integer ratios. So this will be 41, this will be 20, this will be 7, right? This is my
Okay.
empirical formula. What is supposed to be found?
The molecular form.
So molecular formula is supposed to be found, and we have 100 grams has 5 moles of this on 10.3. Okay, so this is C5H10 and O 1.75, no? Correct.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
nothing else is given.
No, like there are two things that find the empirical formula and the molecular formula. So for the empirical formula, they gave the options CH2O, C3H6O, C3H8O3, and C6H12O6. And for the molecular one, they gave no option.
Wait a second. This is CH2. Then if our calculations are slightly wrong, this could be 21 and 42, no? You want to understand? I have done very rough calculations.
Yeah. So,
So
it can be
then it will be
C3H6O.
C3H6O, right? That is going to be the
Yeah.
answer.
Yes.
C3H, okay. That is going to be the answer, C3H6O. And 100 grams of this. How will you find molecule? You have to be given some molecular weight and all to get it molecular formula.
Maybe like that's why they didn't give the options for that. Like it's part A and part B.
I mean, unless you know some molecular weight, I cannot decide molecular formula. Only empirical formula can be decided. So C3H6O is the right answer, no?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
our calculations here are not accurate. So I made it 20, no? It was not 5 exactly, right? It was 5 point something.
Yeah.
When you
So
multiply by 3 or 4, right? You would have gotten some 21 and all. This would have been 42 and all. Right?
okay.
Close to 42. Like I have done everything very roughly here. Okay?
Yes.
So
And the x plus y plus z equals to 100, we write that because it's percentage.
because all the three things should add up to 100%, no?
Yeah. Fine.
Right?
So that's it. I was missing that.
If you have the ratio is coming as some integers, then that is your empirical formula. The smallest integer ratio. Right? Once you have your empirical formula, you need some information about molecular weight or something to be able to say what is the, if suppose the molecular weight was turning out to be, right now what is this weight? It's a 36 plus 6, 42 plus 16, 58. If someone told me molecular weight was 116, my real formula would be C6H12O2, no?
Yes.
But if someone said molecular weight was 58 only, then I will stick with my empirical formula, right?
Yeah.
So unless you know molecular weight, you cannot find out empirical formula here. Okay. Tell me what else?
Yeah, there's one more. It's like which of sorry, which of the following have gram mole equal to 1? Uh, option A is 18 milliliter of H2O. Density is given as 1 gram per centimeter cube. The next option is 100 milliliter of CO2 at NTP. The next one is
First one is
200
obviously right. Wait,
Yeah.
let me just check once. It is 18 grams, no? Milliliter is
Yeah.
1 centimeter cube, so 18 grams. So 18 grams is 1 mole, no?
1 mole, yeah.
So first one is right. After that, you don't even need to bother if it's single, correct?
It's multi-correct.
Okay, 100 ml of?
CO2 at NTP.
And NTP is how much? Tell me.
Normal temperature. STP is at 22.4 liter 180.
Normal temperature and pressure. Now, what is the temperature?
The 273 Kelvin is that. Yeah.
You should check from your book once. STP and NTP are the same things. No, just check once.
STP, like Sir gave, that was 273 Kelvin. NTP, I'm not sure.
It could be
Like,
298 also. Just check once. No,
okay.
go to the book and see wherever it you have written down. See if it is 298 or 273.
1 minute. It's 293 only. It's 290.
273.
293. It's not 273.
Is it
It's not
273 or
it's given
it has to be
290.
273? No,
I
293
don't
is
know.
definitely wrong. It is either
I don't know.
273 or 298.
I don't know. It's 293 given.
Okay, wait, I will just search online. Wait.
Okay.
What is NTP? NTP normal temperature. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, NTP is actually 20 degrees centigrade, 293. Okay, so that is right. So 293 it is. So, okay. So that you need to know that STP is 273 and TP is 293, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then 100 ml of CO2, right?
Mhm.
At this. So generally when you read gaseous state, when you do gaseous state, you will know that there's a law called PV is equal to nRT. Okay.
Okay.
And this
Use
is
pressure.
pressure volume is equal to number of moles RT. R is a constant. It's called gas constant.
Okay.
Okay. So number of moles is equal to PV by RT, right? So here
Mhm.
we'll say how many liters of gas is there? 100 ml, right? 100 ml is 1/10
100.
liter
Yeah.
multiplied by pressure is 1 atm
Yeah.
by R and T.
Uh,
So T is 293 and R is 0.0821 liter atm by Kelvin mole. This is Kelvin. Kelvin can cancel, liter atm cancels. So you
uh,
get mole comes on top, right?
yeah.
N is equal to 1 by 0.821 into 293 mole. Okay.
Okay.
So this becomes 293 into 821 by 1000. So 0.821 into 293 would be something much smaller than a mole. No, it looks like much smaller than a mole. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. No, this will be some
Yeah.
260, 270, 1 by 260, 270 or something. No,
Yes. Yeah.
so this is definitely not equal to 1 gram mole.
Mhm.
Next one,
Okay.
C.
The next one is 200 milliliter of N2 at NTP.
200 milliliter of N2 at NTP. Again, it is not going to be 200 ml. Again, 1 by 5 liter it is. No.
1 by 5, yeah.
Generally, at 273 Kelvin, you are supposed to have 22.4 liters of a gas.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
1 mole.
Yeah.
So a little change in temperature will not change it from 22.4 liters to 1 by 5 liter. No? That's a very drastic
Yeah.
difference, right?
Yes.
So this is
Okay.
also going to be wrong. Then D.
And the next one is 92 milliliter of C2H5OH.
Hmm.
Density is 0.5 gram per centimeter.
So how many grams of C2H5OH is there? 92 into 0.5 grams?
Yeah.
Because gram per centimeter cube, milliliter is centimeter cube only, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is 46 and this becomes 24 plus 16. This is exactly 1 mole.
Uh,
The molecular weight of this is 46 and this works out to be exactly 1 mole. No?
yes. Okay.
So A and B will be right. Okay.
The answer. Yeah, right.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay. No, that's it. Like, sir is going to give one more thing tomorrow. It's going
What
to be
is the
one.
one more thing? Like what?
Like a sheet, entire sheet on some stoichiometric coefficient and millimole and all.
That's fine. Before tomorrow, please go through McMurray chapter 3 and 4.
Yes, I will do that. I will do that.
Chapter 3 and 4, if you go through, then you will not ever be confused in moles and whatnot. Moles, millimoles, whatever.
Okay, fine, I'll do
It
that.
is important to get your concepts clear before the FITGI class so that you don't feel out of, like, you don't feel lost, right? You should not be
Yes.
lost. There are some other kids who might be feeling okay because they have done it before, right?
Yes. Okay.
SPDF I cannot explain in such a brief amount of time. We have to
Yeah,
do a separate class on it. Atomic
I will do.
structure, yeah. So this atomic structure will take at least like 2 classes, 2 or 3 classes it will take to do. Okay. So once you read chapter 5, once you start reading chapter 5, no, then then you will start understanding what is happening. And if you are stuck anywhere, just ask me. So
Okay.
this is just electronic configuration. So far electronic configuration in 10th standard and all, you know that it is like 2, 8, 8, 18, something like this, no?
Yeah.
So
The 2 and square.
in case of carbon, it will be just 2,4, right?
Yeah.
These are the maximum possible allowed. And 2, 8, 8, 18, I think something like this is there.
2 and square.
I think it is 2, 8, 18.
8, 18. 2, 8,
Right?
18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is all like wrong stuff. Like, it is not wrong entirely, but it is totally incomplete. So atomic structure will teach you what is the real thing happening inside an atom. And it is a long chapter. It has 14 sections in McMurray and Fair. Okay. So you should start soon because atomic structure is very crucial. So before you know a lot of chemistry, otherwise you should know atomic structure. So mole concept you're doing is fine, but you should soon start reading it. Once you start reading, you can come to me with doubts and we can do section by section. It will take us 2-3 classes to do it. Okay. So 2 classes for sure it takes, at least 2 classes. So right now, let's not discuss it. Tell me if they have any other physics, chemistry, physics, maths doubts and all.
I have one physics doubt, one question. So it's like a particle is subjected to 2 equal forces along 2 different directions. If one of them is halved, the angle which the resultant
Where
makes.
is this question, dude? Everyone is asking me the same question.
Oh, this is in FITGI.
Everyone is asking me the same question. Now, this one is half. The angle that the resultant makes is how much?
Also.
Half.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the angle between the forces is 1.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's in FITGI booklet, huh?
Yeah, the package. Yes.
Okay. So, it's important to understand the question properly. So, there is one force here, F, right? There is another force here, F. 2 equal forces, right? But let's still label it as A and B. Okay. And the angle between A and B is, let's say theta, right?
Okay.
Correct. Now, the resultant of these 2 forces will be, say, somewhere like this.
Yes.
Let's say this is the resultant. Let's say the resultant makes an angle alpha, right?
Yeah.
So alpha is the angle that the resultant makes with which direction? With A, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you know about it now? You know that tan alpha should be equal to F sine theta by F plus F cos theta.
Yeah.
This should be the situation, right?
Yes.
Now what happens is, now F has become F by 2, right?
Yeah.
Let's say B has become F by 2. So when the question says if one of them is halved, which one is halved? B.
Yes.
B is halved. Then the angle that the new resultant makes with the other is which one?
Other is A.
So let's say new resultant is like this, right? Correct? The new
Yeah.
resultant is going to make how much angle? Alpha by 2
Alpha by 2.
with the other, so with A, right?
A, yeah.
So now what is your tan alpha by 2?
Tan alpha by 2
F
will
by
be
2
B,
sine
right?
theta
F by 2 sin theta
by F
F
plus,
F by 2 cos theta.
this is it, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So my equations, I'll simplify a little bit. Tan alpha becomes equal to sine theta by 1 plus cos theta, and tan
Yeah.
alpha by 2 becomes equal to sine theta by 2 plus cos theta. See?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like it too. Yeah.
Right? Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now I have to find what? What is you supposed to be found?
The angle between the two forces, so theta.
Theta you have to find, right? So to find
Yeah.
theta, you have to eliminate alpha, right?
Yes.
To find theta, you'll have to eliminate alpha from this, right? Now
Mhm.
it is better now to check options rather than try to solve it, right? Because trying to solve it will mean doing what? Tan alpha is equal to 2 tan alpha by 2 by 1 minus tan square alpha by 2, right?
Yeah.
So what I can do is put the tan alpha by 2 from here and put it in this,
Yeah. Okay.
and then you'll get only equations in terms of theta, right?
Theta. Yeah. Then.
But don't do so much effort. Just check the options now. So let's say alpha is 120, right?
Yeah. The answer is. Yeah.
Let's just check. No, we don't know
Yeah.
for sure, right? So
Yes.
if
Yeah.
alpha is 120, tan alpha becomes what? Tan 120 is minus root 3
Minus root 3.
is equal to sine theta by 1 plus cos theta, right? Correct.
Yeah.
If alpha is 120, then we get this thing, by the
Like
way.
theta.
Wait, this thing can be
You're taking.
simplified very nicely. This is 2 sine theta by 2 cos theta by 2 by 2 cos square theta by 2. This
Yeah.
thing. So
Yes.
isn't it cos be getting cancelled? It becomes tan theta by 2, right?
Right. Yeah.
So see, you have tan alpha is equal to tan theta by 2 here, right?
Yes.
So alpha is equal to just theta by 2, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. So you
Yeah.
get alpha, if alpha is 120, right? And theta
Yeah.
is 240, right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So alpha, so theta is 240. So what is sine 240 by
Scientific 1.
2 plus
1.
cos 240, right? So
Yeah.
this will become 180
Sine.
plus 60. So minus sine 60 minus root 3 by
Minus
2
root 3 by 2.
by 2 plus cos 240 is also minus half,
Minus half.
right? So minus root
Yeah.
3 by 2 by 3 by 2. So minus 1 by root 3, right?
Yeah.
Minus 1 by root 3 should be tan alpha by 2, right?
Yes.
So 1 by minus 1 by root 3 is minus 30 degree, no? Tan alpha by 2 should be minus 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
So alpha should be minus 60.
Yes.
So minus 60 means alpha is minus 60. So minus 60 is same as 300 degree. No? Oh, wait. Something is going wrong. I mean, answer is 120. We can do it very easily in one way. Like
theta is 1.
so if alpha is theta by 2, this is it correct, no? There's no mistake here, no? Alpha is theta by 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I take alpha is theta by 2, so oh wait, you have to find theta, no? Why am I doing alpha? No. You have to find angle
the
between
angle
the forces,
between
no?
forces.
So you'll assume for theta, no? I will assume 120 and all for theta, right?
Yes, yes.
So I will say 120, I'll assume here for theta. So I'll get tan alpha. Okay, I'll just get alpha is equal to theta by 2. So alpha should be 60, right?
60, yeah. If theta
Alpha
is
is
1.
correct. So now you can check whether 120 sine 120 is root 3 by 2, and
3 by
2
2.
minus half, it is 1 by 2, 3 by 2, root 3 by
1.
2 by 3 by 2. So 1 by root
Yeah.
3.
1 by
This 1 by root 3 is equal to fitting, no? 60 by 32, 30.
30, correct.
It fits the second equation, right?
Okay. Yes.
So you don't need to do anything, just verify using this and verify with the options whether the second equation fits or not.
Okay, fine. Got it.
In general, you can solve it, but solving will be painful. So you avoid that pain, right? But be sure to notice, you can only do it quickly if you notice this tan alpha is equal to tan theta by 2. You
Yes.
understand? So this is where, say, trigonometry comes in handy. You should be able to do this.
Okay, fine.
Right? If you don't know
Got
trigonometry to do this, then you will be stuck here. Like it will still be a long and annoying, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What is happening in physics right now in Fiji?
We just started 1 minute. Yeah. We just started kinematics, like the slope and like whatever we did in 9th grade. This
Okay.
finding the slope and area under VT graph, the slope of VT graph.
Have they discussed any little bit of calculus or anything?
Yeah, they have in maths. They have.
Okay.
And in that, I didn't understand this topic called maxima minima. So it was like really fast.
Okay. Maxima, minima.
And the increasing function, decreasing function.
Okay. So yeah, y is equal to fx function. You understand what it is? What is a function?
It's like an operation. Basically, like if you.
Okay. So function is basically a black box. A black box that does something. Okay. It takes in inputs. Inputs are called x. Outputs are called y. Okay. And inside something is happening. Okay. It transforms the x's into the y's, right? That is a function. So when you say y is equal to f of x, you specify the rule by which you are changing x to make it y. Correct?
Yeah.
So for example, y is equal to x square is doing what? It is taking the number input x and squaring it and giving it as output, right?
Yeah.
It is taking inputs and squaring it and giving those as outputs. So that is the rough meaning of a function. A function is a rule that specifies how you change your independent variable. X is called independent variable. That can take any value.
Yeah.
And independent variable decides what the value of the dependent variable is, which is y. Right?
Yes.
So this is a function basically. Now, graph of a function can be drawn like this. Y is equal to fx can be anything here. This is y is equal to fx graph. This is y, this is x. So this point on the graph is some point here x, and the height is somewhere here f of x, right?
Yeah.
So this point is called x comma f of x, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense, no?
Yes.
Now, what is a derivative? Differentiation.
Yeah,
What is dy by dx?
We did the like rate of y with rate of change of y with respect to.
Correct. In the graph, what will you say? It is the slope of the graph at this point.
Yeah. Yes.
Slope of tangent at x comma y is equal to dy by dx.
Yes.
Right? So slope of the tangent tells us how fast something is rising or falling, right?
Yes.
Slope of the tangent will tell you how fast something is going up or coming down, right? Correct. So dy by dx tells you, like, so basically think of it as a mountain. If you have a Himalayas, it is like this, but if you have Aravali hills, it is like this, right? Gentler slope. This is a steeper slope, right? So
Yes.
what is the difference between this and this? This is the slope of the tangent is high, slope is large,
Yes.
and slope is low here. Sometimes slope can even be zero. So at this point, at Mount Everest, slope is zero because
Yes.
you have reached this place where the tangent is horizontal, right?
Yes.
Tangent is horizontal. You are not increasing height anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y is
Yeah.
not changing if you change from here to here much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To understand.
Yes.
So sometimes in this side, what is the slope? It is negative, no?
Yeah.
Negative because y is decreasing as you increase x, right?
Yeah.
Height is decreasing, no, as you step forward.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
so it is negative slope, and in the Himalayas it will be very sharply negative. It's a steep fall, right? And
Yes.
in here it will be very gently negative, right?
Yeah.
It is less negative here, less negative. It is more negative here, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So that is the meaning that is given to a derivative. Now, now it is very obvious to say now what is the meaning of increasing and decreasing function.
The slope which.
So portion where the function is increasing is literally what it says, right? Increasing,
Oh. Okay.
right?
Like and the portion of the graph which is like
Portion
the
of the
slope.
graph where it is decreasing, where slope is negative is decreasing,
Mm-hmm.
and where slope is
Yes.
positive is increasing. Slope is
Yeah.
positive is increasing, slope is negative is decreasing, right?
Yeah.
Right? It is literally what it means. Like increasing means it is increasing because slope is positive, so you're going up. And
Yes.
decreasing means slope is negative, so it is decreasing. So the condition is dy by dx is greater than 0 for increasing, and dy by dx is less than 0 for decreasing, because dy by dx was the slope of the tangent, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Dy by
Yes.
dx was giving you the slope of the tangent. So if that slope is positive, the function is increasing. If that slope is negative, it is decreasing, because literally it seems like it is increasing, no, when slope is positive.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Very obvious idea. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Then, okay, then, okay. Then,
And so give this expression like an algebraic expression and told us to sort out the increasing and decreasing functions.
so give me the expression.
1 second. It's like a random algebraic one, like 5x cubed one.
Tell me.
Just a second. It's like 5x cubed plus, sorry, 4x cubed minus 21x square plus 18x plus 20.
Okay. So, to what have we understood about increasing and decreasing right now? What has to matter?
Like whether the slope increases, that
Slope
part
is
is the
positive or negative, not
slope is
increases.
positive. Slope positive is
Increasing, and slope negative is decreasing. Now,
yeah.
if you are not precise with your words, if you say slope is increasing, that means something else though. Slope is increasing means it is becoming more and more steep as you go along.
Yes.
It is a different thing slightly, no? So
yes.
Slope increasing function is, even this one is also increasing, no? Slowly, very slowly increasing, right?
Yeah.
And this
Yes.
one is also increasing. So this is becoming very steep very quickly, right?
Yeah.
This one, suppose, right? This one becomes, see, slope here was little positive, but now it is becoming very positive slope.
Yeah.
This slope is not changing much, but it is still positive, no, throughout.
Yes.
To understand.
Okay.
So this is still increasing. So you don't have to say that slope should be increasing. Slope can be constant, but as long as it is positive, it is increasing, no?
Yes, got it.
Look at a straight line. Straight line has constant slope, no?
Yeah.
But if the straight line is pointing upwards, then it is increasing, no?
Yeah, got
You
it.
understand?
Yeah.
So we have to decide whether slope is positive or negative. So to decide that, we need to take derivatives. So now derivatives, do you know how to take?
Yeah, I know.
What is it?
So 12x square minus 42x plus 18.
That's it, right? So
Yeah,
this becomes dy by dx is equal to 6 common. So 6 common, 2x square minus 7x plus 3, right? Now this is a question of the wavy curve question. No, you have done that type of question, right?
Yeah, that mod that time we had done.
So not mod, wavy curve, that where it becomes positive or negative, right? So this is very easy because you can do this. 2x square minus 6x minus x plus 3 becomes 2x common, x minus 3 minus 1, x minus 3. The factorization is 2x minus 1, x minus 3 into 6, right?
6.
So you can write it as 12 into x minus half, x minus 3, right?
Yeah.
This is your dy by dx, no? 12 into x minus half, x minus 3.
Yes.
So you can easily decide where it is positive or negative, no?
Like half and 3 are the 2 points. So
take half and 3.
Greater than 3 and
right?
Yeah.
Above 3, x greater than 3 and x less than half.
Less than half.
It will be increasing.
Yes.
Because it dy by dx is positive, and between half to 3, it will be decreasing.
Yes.
Because dy by dx will be negative, right?
Yes.
It is obvious, right?
Yeah.
So now I will discuss maxima and minima briefly. If you have any doubts, we can discuss tomorrow as well. Tomorrow also we have a class, right?
Right.
So suppose this is like this. So this is a function. Okay, I'll draw a simpler graph. Okay, this is my function. So notice this is y, this is x. Okay, tell me what is the slope sign here?
In which one?
This negative.
Yeah, this is negative.
Then here, what is the slope here? What is the slope here?
0.
And here?
Then it's positive.
Right? Here?
Yeah. 0.
Then again?
Then it's negative.
Negative in this region, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So function was decreasing. Then increasing.
Yeah.
Then decreasing again. Right?
Yes.
So function was decreasing means function values were coming down right now here, no? From here, coming down. Then it started increasing from this onwards, right?
Yes.
So isn't this a local minima?
Local minima is like the minimum value. Yeah.
Function values were decreasing and then they started increasing.
Yes. Okay. Fine.
Then function was increasing and then it started decreasing. So it is a local maxima.
Okay.
It is obvious, right?
Yeah.
So local maxima and minima can only happen when derivative or f dash x or dy by dx is equal to 0. The point where it becomes 0 is the lowest point or the highest point. No.
Yes.
You understand why, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
before that it was negative, and after that it is positive. So it was falling till then, and then after that it started rising. No.
Yes. Understood.
So this should be minima. So maxima minima can only happen at these points where f dash x is equal to 0. Then how do you find out whether it is a maxima or a minima? You just see whether before that it was decreasing and after that it was increasing, or vice versa. You understand? So in the
Like
previous
before
question you had f dash x was coming as 12 times x minus half x minus 3, right?
X minus 3. Yeah.
F dash x was equal to 0 at half and 3,
Yeah. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So just before half. So you had plotted the wavy curve of this f dash x. No, it was positive here, and negative here, right?
Yeah.
So function must have been increasing like this here, then
And
started
then
decreasing, and then started increasing. No.
yes.
So half is a point of what? Maxima ke minima?
It was increasing then decreasing. So maximum,
And 3 is a point of?
minimum.
Makes sense. It's common sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood.
If you understand increasing and decreasing, you will be able to find maxima and minima.
Yes.
You understand? You have to just find the points
Yeah.
where dy by dx is 0. First step to finding maxima minima is find the points where dy by dx is 0. At those points, you could have a maxima or a minima, right? How do you find out whether it is maxima minima? You check just
Yes.
before and just after. Is it increasing or decreasing, right? You understand?
Okay. Fine.
Just before it
Yeah.
was
Got
0,
it.
before it was increasing here, so and then decreasing. So then it must have reached its maximum value, no?
Maximum. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Right? So
Understood.
we will do maxima minima and a little bit of calculus. And what is happening currently in physics? Kinematics. So kinematics will not do right now, but anything that is there that is bothering you in calculus part and all, you can ask me tomorrow. And
Okay.
what we'll also do is you should start reading the chemistry atomic structure part, or actually 3 and 4 chapter part, right? So
I'll
otherwise,
start
if there is nothing else, if you need some doubts clarified, you can ask me tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll continue with we'll do our last class on triangles. Last class we'll do a recap on triangles, so it will be over tomorrow. Okay. And then after that, Wednesday onwards, we'll start a new topic in maths, unless you have some doubts and all we can figure out. But otherwise, Wednesday onwards, what we'll start is quadratic equations.
Okay, fine.
So algebra part will start. So trigonometry is over. There is only this much trigonometry you need to know, the triangles part. Before that, everything that we have done plus the properties of triangles. Okay.
Yes.
So that's it. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow then, same time. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.